I'm Tony Devonish. I'm the Assembly Member for West Central, which includes the 3 London boroughs of Kensington and Chelsea, the City of Westminster, and Hammersmith and Fulham. I've always been involved in politics. I was, dare I say it, one of those young Conservatives and involved at university. I went back to get a real job and then I came back later in life. But I started off as a local London Borough Councillor, which I'm still doing 16 years later. And that's how I ended up as a London Assembly Member. I find there's nothing else that you do in life that is such a challenge, and you meet so many interesting people. When I was selected and elected, Margaret Thatcher was my most famous local resident, and we have very distinguished local residents in Knightsbridge and Belgravia and across West Central. So I meet some very interesting people, let's say that. I'm always a great believer the top issues facing London is what Londoners think and not what I think. So I'm always listening to Londoners. But all the polls show it's the cost of living #1 and it's the NHS #2. And all the other issues pale in significance. But the reality is, of course, at a London level, in terms of things we particularly focus on, serious crime is always a major issue. And Mr. Khan hasn't dealt with it. I personally feel safe, but statistically speaking, I don't want to be complacent here, but a white middle-class, middle-aged bloke is the least likely person actually, statistically speaking, to be involved in any form of crime. And I tend to go in well-lit streets and be working most of my time. So yes, personally, I've always felt safe in London, but I talk to other people who aren't as privileged as I, and they don't feel safe. In 2016, when I was first elected, the major story, the #1 issue in London was the housing crisis. And I do think the Assembly members that sit on the housing and planning committees are particularly frustrated how the housing crisis, which is a huge issue, any Londoner under 40 will tell you housing particularly is hugely important. But somehow, despite trying every single way, the only time that housing has really raised up the political agenda at all since 2016 was the following year when the terrible Grenfell fire tragedy happened. We do need to have a full debate in this country and across London of what we're going to do, because younger Londoners are getting priced out of rental properties and they can't get on the housing ladder to buy. We definitely need to do more on the climate. I think that one of the things that the Mayor does so badly, he needs to work with government and the wider public sector and the private sector to actually get things done. I think the ULEZ all-wide expansion is probably the worst idea of many bad ideas that Mr. Khan's come up with in the last several years. It really is a waste of hundreds of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. It's going to do very little to improve air quality. If it improved air quality massively, I would support it. It doesn't improve air quality. Even small cities like Coventry are pushing on very quickly with electrifying their bus fleet. Mr. Khan's got an appalling record, and clearly cleaner buses, you don't have to be an expert on this subject, cleaner buses, it's obvious, would be much better than spending money penalising poorer Londoners by removing a few cars in outer London. I find there's nothing else that you do in life that is such a challenge, and you meet so many interesting people and you can actually make a difference. That's a cliche, I know, but making a difference is important. You can both stop things that harm people's lives and actually do positive things that again help people's lives. So it's it's a fascinating way of spending your life and a great honour. Cut.